What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Culture FC, the weekly soccer show where we talk about everything related to soccer off of the pitch. So we talk lifestyle, fashion, music, politics, etc., etc., etc. Everything except live scores, player information, yada, yada, yada. I'm here, Alan, and I'm here with Louie.
Hi.
And Brendan.
What up, world?
So today's episode is very special. We basically did a nice highlight series on Atlanta United because they are taking the MLS and U.S. soccer by storm. We talked about how the ownership took ownership of everything, and they got the best infrastructure in place, not only in terms of actual buildings and stadiums, stuff like that, but the infrastructure of the team, from the president to the vice president to the coach to all of the players. And then we talked about how Atlanta United was embraced by the city, and the city embraced the club and the culture, and how music is such a big part of what they do. And then we jumped into where does Atlanta compare to not only the MLS, but also other European clubs, and where's it going? What does it mean for MLS soccer and US soccer? And we kind of try to wrap it all up and tie it together with a nice little bow.
We love that you listen on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe. And at the end, you know, we always like the 5-star review. We do what we do for you. Thanks for listening, and be sure, interact with us.
So let's jump right into this week's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Culture FC, and today we're going to be talking about how Atlanta United has taken the league and the country by storm. So let's jump right in. One of the main reasons why Atlanta United did such a great job from the beginning was their ownership. Arthur Blank, the guy who owns the Atlanta Falcons and also is the owner of the Atlanta United, from the very beginning he's been trying to get an MLS team since 2007. So he had been proposing to the MLS all these different things and trying to get a bid since 2007. And finally he got his bid in 2014. He took two and a half years to get everything together, and they started their first season this past year. And so the reason why it's so important is that he's an owner that took it legitimately. Yeah. Especially as we've seen with the Revs, they don't take the Revs seriously. And, you know, it's a similar situation. The guy owns an NFL team the same way as he owns an MLS team. But he took the time to invest not only in the infrastructure, but also the team and all of those things.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, it's interesting because they just had the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium built up. Even in the planning for that, the idea of Atlanta United as a soccer team and what that meant for them, that was put into consideration. So they had the fan area extended up into like the owners' boxes. They made sure they bought out that area to make sure that fan zone got extended. They put the thought into making sure that the locker rooms were specific for the Atlanta United teams. So all of these kind of ideas prior to Atlanta United even existing shows that he was thinking that it was going to be a big investment in a big club in the MLS from the very start.
Right.
Which is a huge step for any team in the MLS, because a lot of the times, like you say, Revs or a bunch of other teams you see, it's kind of just like a money grab, see what you can get out of them. And yeah, so it's good to see a guy thinking ahead and saying, hey, I actually want this to be a
multi-sport
arena, especially for such a nice stadium.
And right? It's built beautifully. It's like that cauldron kind of thing, and it's like upward, and it feels like a soccer stadium.
Right.
So you can see, like, from the architecture, from the way they did everything, is that he created it not as a football stadium. Right. He created it to be multifunctional from the get-go. So, like, that's something that you don't see. You don't see someone who's an NFL owner being like, oh, we need a new stadium. Right. And I have an NFL team. Like, no. We have two teams that are going to share the stadium. Right. So it shows that step in progress for what soccer is, at least in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, he definitely showed interest in it, which is important not only for the club and the players, but for the fans.
Right. To show that the fans have someone they could look up to in terms of, well, this guy's got my back. Like,
to add the drapes to make it seem like a very like European exciting arena. I mean, that's insight and thought that you don't see from a lot of other clubs.
Yeah, it seemed like every detail was thought of,
right?
Which is like a lot of times, like especially feels like with the Revs. Think about how many times you've seen the Revs on TV, and they don't even bother to get rid of the Patriots paint or the logo or anything like that. They're just playing on a football field, and you're like, that's kind of weird,
Right.
and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So
Even when you go to a Revs game, it's just like, oh, it looks like the Revs have the Patriots Stadium today.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
looks like we'll sit on this side
Yeah,
of the field.
It's like one of those. It's an ugly situation, but it's good to see that there was thought and
Right.
real insight put into it. I like also that he invested not only in the stadium but outside of the stadium. The players get their dedicated training facilities. It's top class. They
beautiful.
get everything that any other major club all across the world has. They're getting fed from professional chefs, grade A chefs. They're getting all of these amenities that make them feel like they're actually professional soccer players and not just some back of the woods.
It's like,
Yeah.
yo, I play soccer 8 months out of the year, but the other couple months, like,
Yeah, it's
do
like
whatever
I have to go work at Home Depot or some shit. Right? So
and it sounds like counterintuitive because that's how it should be.
Right.
But that's not how it is in the
Right.
MLS.
That's
for a
how
lot of
we
people.
don't know that. Like,
We don't
a
know
lot of
that.
people like, oh,
Yeah.
like MLS, they just must play soccer, like professional lacrosse. Like these professional lacrosse players, they don't get paid a lot. There's not a lot
Right.
to them, and like they have jobs outside. They
Right.
run 2 jobs.
I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of these older, I don't say older, but poorly run MLS teams are still running in that like lacrosse style, where it's like
Despite the fact that there's
these
money
guys
in
are
the
getting paid. Right, these guys are getting paid, but they're still being treated like they're a smaller division or a class below.
Yeah,
Other professional
other
athletes.
professional athletes.
Right.
So it's good. I mean, it's amazing to see that. I'm sure the players love it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
he's
they-
definitely raised the bar for other MLS teams.
Absolutely. Other teams, if I can imagine that's a huge trade. That's a I can't think of the word right now, but it's a huge tool or incentive to get players to come.
Oh, yeah.
To your stadium.
It's
You're
like,
saying,
come to
"Hey,
Atlanta.
Look at what I have. You
Look
know
at
what I
what
mean?
Not only
have
do we
for
have
you.
a top class stadium that you get to play in with 70,000 people that actually show up to the games,
Right.
but when you're training every day, you're not training at some crap facility.
Right.
You're training at a
Right.
facility
You're
dedicated
actually
just
here.
to you,
Yeah.
Right.
and you get top class chefs and all this stuff.
Right,
And so from all the infrastructure, he did a great job. And then what he continued to do really well was it wasn't just like, let's make everything pretty. It was like, all right, we have to run this like a legit club. So he went out and he hired the president. The guy used to work for Tottenham. He was their director of, basically the guy who did all the trades at Tottenham and everything
Sporting
like that.
director, probably.
Sporting director,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
He got him from Tottenham. The guy actually played soccer in the U.S.
Oh, really?
He like holds records at Brown University, I believe.
Oh,
for soccer.
nice.
So they brought him over. He has that weird. It's like the mix of American and English, and he came over and became the president.
Which is a great mix, especially coming into
Definitely.
MLS, because you have
Oh,
insight from England.
Both
and-
sides of the story.
Right, and then you understand what the MLS is and have
Right.
the perspective for that, which is great.
And then they brought in Carlos Bocanegra as the vice president to help with that. So it gives you that other
Yeah.
element where this guy has played in the U.S. men's national team and played across the world, but he's American. He represents America, and he knows how to put it together.
Yeah.
And then they hired Tata Martino, who has managed Argentina
Yeah.
at an international level in Barcelona, and it's
Right.
like they didn't skimp on a coach.
No.
They got the top class
Right.
of coach and brought him in,
Right.
and they were like, "Here you go, like this is your team," and that just shows so much intent behind what they wanted to do from the beginning.
Right. And having all those great minds, footballing minds behind it, I think that they put thought into, hey, what do we want our team to be,
Yep.
right? Because we saw they weren't just recruiting the old guys.
Yeah.
They're recruiting new players, fresh faces, guys that we haven't heard of, guys that are still trying to make a living off of the sport and aren't just here just for vacation, right? Which is
It's like that thing we talked about a couple weeks ago, the like the old style MLS, where you just have these these aging veterans looking for a last paycheck.
Right.
Atlanta didn't go, who can we get to
Right.
sell tickets?
Who's
They were
the
like,
big name retiring this year from European football that we can bring in.
right.
Yeah.
They didn't do that at all. They just were like, let's find the best young,
Let's
hungry
build a
players. we
team,
can.
right?
Let's build a team.
Let's build an actual team and not a star focus.
Exactly. Their foundation was laid out perfectly.
Right.
For what they wanted to be.
Right.
And no other team thus far has had that happen.
Right.
So they're
At
in
least
a
not as
class of
quickly.
their own.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's great to see that from an infrastructure and all of this insight behind the scenes going on years before, right? So it's not just this sloppy mess of a team that
Yeah.
comes out in the forefront and is fighting for draft picks
And
for the
survival
first,
and,
yeah.
for 5 years until they get a good core player. So
Yeah. But on top of not just getting the players, but their style of play too. Tata Martino has them playing this very fast-paced scoring mentality. There was a quote that I read in one of the articles I researched, and it was like, "We'd rather win 4-3 than 1-0."
Right.
And it's like that shows the intent behind like, let's play fast, let's play energetic, let's play with that
Yeah.
spirit. Even if we get scored on, we're gonna score more. And
plus
that's
that sets such a good precedence for the rest of your club's history, right? You're thinking Manchester United, right? We're playing great football with Jose Mourinho, but it doesn't fit the Sir Alex Ferguson era. So you have a standard. You want to score goals. You want to play pretty soccer. You want to play stuff that's appeasing to your eye. So right now, that for anyone that's watching now, that's amazing. But for the people in the future that are going to be watching, is you have this foundation, this belief, right, for what your club is and what you guys play.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if they put thought into that, but it
seems like they did. Right. And if it came about naturally, whatever,
right.
It's just an awesome benchmark for the rest of their history. It's going to be like, hey man, that first year they came out firing on this. We're playing attacking football. So from every coach you now hire from now until the end of time, you go, hey man, this is how we play. This is how United plays. If you can't figure it out, that's it. This is how we play.
You could be doing whatever you want, but our fans want 4 goals. Our fans want that.
Our fans want to celebrate goals. They want to be partying. They want to be the whole thing. And I mean, going back to the players they brought in, they didn't just bring in scrubs. They brought in young all-stars, like our friend Greg Garza we spoke with last week, and and Josef Martinez. The dude was an absolute baller.
19 goals.
19 goals, and he missed 14 games.
Yeah.
The guy was I think 3rd or 4th in scoring in the MLS, and he didn't play for half the season. Now imagine the guy gets a full season in him, and he gets to do that.
Right.
What kind of production is he going to be putting out?
Guys that are living to play the game at a high level, and they're still young and they're hungry, and that's exciting.
Hopefully that maybe even starts a new era of I could go and try to make it work in Europe, but Atlanta United, they play how I want to play,
right?
And they give
if you get a young generation of kids all loving Atlanta United and saying, "Hey, I want to play for Atlanta United." Sure, they might not make it, but then the MLS's stock rises, right? Because Atlanta United, this team that I love, is in the MLS, and if I can't end up there, I'll end up some other place.
Yeah, and which just start an academy team, and then they have Atlanta United Academy.
Right. Well, they have the academy team now that's running, and they have a couple players running, but
they're also going to have a USL team that they're starting. It's going to start playing next month.
Wow.
Right.
So they're getting a USL team similar. The MLS is trying to create a model that's similar to Spain, where every top level club has that 3rd division team.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are starting to build it up. So Atlanta's getting a new one too, and so I think that like you said, it raises MLS's stature, right? You're going to look at it's like you said, you wouldn't want to leave for Europe, because what you're going to go look for in Europe is a couple of things, right? Atmosphere, the good dynamic, and wanting to win and make some money.
Actually having players that want to win it.
Exactly.
Right.
So if Atlanta has all that here, it's becoming a player destination.
Right.
It's going to make that they already have that. They already have the supporters. They have the facilities. They have they just need to start winning titles, and then that's going to create even more fervor for their club.
And honestly, the more successful Atlanta is, the quicker, the better it will be for the MLS, because it will be a wake-up call to all these other clubs that are run in a poor style.
Yep.
They'll see Atlanta prospering, not only financially, which is a lot of the owners care about, but as a city, people are going to be like, okay, we need to start doing something a little different.
Yeah.
Right? So Atlanta United, honestly, for a year in the league is already head and shoulders above so many other.
I mean, they got us talking about it.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
The whole episode devoted to them.
Just the amount of content that's come out about Atlanta United for one year
insane.
must drive other teams crazy.
Oh, I can imagine.
Man.
I mean, what's funny? They came out at the same time with Minnesota United.
Yeah.
Does anyone talk about Minnesota?
No. Who?
Right.
No.
Right.
And the thing is it's just so well done that it's amazing. But backtracking a little bit, so before any player ever stepped foot on a field, they had already started selling out 20,000 tickets for season tickets for the games. Yep. And that was before the team had ever stepped foot on the field.
Before they even had a name, they were throwing celebration parties for Atlanta.
With all these supporter groups that are like, what are you celebrating? There's nothing to celebrate.
What have you guys done?
But it's to me, it seems so strange. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Get people excited about soccer in Atlanta. And it's not like this is the first soccer team that ever exists in Atlanta.
Right.
There's been a pretty long history of, people trying to make it in Atlanta, make soccer happen in Atlanta. And I think that it's really cool that even before the team ever stepped foot on the field, they already had thousands of season ticket holders waiting for people to start playing.
Right.
And then even better, because once the product on the field came out, they knew what happened was the ownership knew that the product on the field had to match the fervor that they had created.
Yep.
You know,
yeah. If you have that much hype in the beginning, but your team sucks and you're losing,
you're gonna lose all those fans.
You're gonna lose them pretty quickly.
Yeah, right.
So it was good. It was a good mix of having the fans, having the football that will attract them to keep coming to the games.
Right.
But I think that's a good segue to the next step of you had this investment from the club, right, and then you have the city.
Yes.
So why does Atlanta, as a city, work?
Right. So basically, the question is, this could have been any other club, but why is it that Atlanta received soccer so well?
Right.
For the more you read about Atlanta, you think they call it a sucky sports town because they have like one title that they've won in their entire existence, and I believe it was from when what team was in St. Louis? It was the St. Louis Hawks, where the Atlanta Hawks. They won a title in '58 in St. Louis, not in Atlanta, but they're claiming it to be Atlanta's because they transferred over.
Imagine that, dude. Imagine having a town like, we won back in St. Louis, but it's ours.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that Columbus Crew thing. That's what we were talking about a few episodes ago.
Exactly.
And basketball, you'd think it would be big in Atlanta, not that big because they're not that good.
Yep.
The Falcons are all right.
My choice of headwear was not
appropriate.
It was intentional, but you can't talk about Atlanta without
For those of you listening and not watching,
Louis is wearing a Patriots beanie.
Patriots beanie. Don't turn us off.
This was too early. I should have mentioned it later.
A little later in the podcast.
But you know where your allegiance lies.
But yeah, they seem to be needing a sports team
to really sink their teeth into.
A successful team.
Yes.
Right.
And so here's the funny part. When I first found out that they were going to name Atlanta United, we support the real United. We support Manchester United. So for me, I was like, Atlanta United? Like, who cares? But it's just Atlanta. Just copying names.
Yeah.
But then the more you read about it and the fact that, Atlanta is such a melting pot of so many different cultures. You have the Latino culture, you have the black culture, you have the Caucasian culture.
It's like 56% African-American, 30-something% white, the rest spread out between Latino and others.
Yep. And the fact that when you start reading these articles about how people tailgate and how they, tailgating came from college football, which was already a weird mix, right? So you have these people who love college football because they say that Atlanta is the home of college football because it has, Georgia and all these things. And so when you have those kind of cultures coming in on top of the actual nationality kind of cultures, and you have this big blend of hip-hop and all this stuff, it starts to make sense. Yeah, right. I think that Atlanta United as a name is fitting now once you think about it a little bit because it brings everybody together.
Something I found extremely interesting is that through research and looking at it is that the United, which you hated, is actually a huge selling point to the players there.
Which makes sense.
Not to the players, sorry, to the fans there because the people of Atlanta feel that they are extremely diverse. They feel that they're creative. They feel they have this certain thing about them. And that it's funny that this soccer team is what united them.
Right.
So so many articles and videos that I've seen, the United is the best part of the entire thing,
right.
Which is
it
great.
rolls off the tongue.
It does.
So
it does.
well.
It really does.
Atlanta United.
Atlanta United.
It's one big word.
Atlanta United. Yeah. No, it's cool. But yeah, Atlanta as a city, right? So different.
So it's such a strange city in a weird way. It's like it's southern, but it's also aggressive with hip hop, and it's like also in southern tailgate culture. Like I said, it has so many different facets to it, and it's a fascinating city to even think about. Big time city in the south that just has so much going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's has big industry, home of Coca-Cola. You have so much.
CNN is there too. One of CNN's headquarters
is
is there, I think.
Yeah, so it's a big time it's a big time city, and there's just so much random things going on here and there.
Often the southern is often misplaced in Atlanta because it is a southern location geographically, but they are much more than just your typical what you think of the South.
Yeah, they
have the South, but they have with flair. They have this special style
that
no other southern state or city has.
Yeah,
music culture, hip hop is huge. Right?
Insanely big.
Every rap artist nowadays, Atlanta. It's,
Yeah, everyone
like
wants
anyone out of
from
there is
Atlanta.
making hits. So
they're also filming a majority of movies today are being filmed in
Really? I did not know
Georgia.
that.
Yeah, they're coming out of Atlanta. Hollywood is still doing all the TV shows because they have all of the sets there. Majority of movies, if you like all the Marvel movies, they shot in Georgia.
oh really?
Really?
If you watch at the end of the credits, a peach will come up and it'll be like, oh, like shot in Georgia.
Shot in Georgia. That's awesome.
The Atlanta is now is basically becoming the second home for movies.
I did not know that.
All the people who like organize and plan everything, they're still in Hollywood, but they shoot everything in Atlanta. Beautiful state and all this stuff, but the city of Atlanta itself is becoming this hotbed for, not just music but movies, and so you have so much going on.
Right. One thing I found interesting about the music, not to keep harping on that, but that Atlanta United's fan groups and the people that understood soccer started using the hip hop culture to bring unknowing fans to the sport.
Yeah.
So you have these tailgates that you're just bumping, right? You're bumping all these rap
Bumping
Migos,
yeah.
21 Savage, all these guys that people are like, hey, what's going on here, right? They come in, they're like, wow, this is bumping,
this is
and everyone here is jumping. What's
Yeah,
going on?
for sure.
You build up that interest in, at least in the tailgate, and people are like, well, maybe I'm gonna go watch this.
Yeah,
game.
especially if you watch a video from your buddy there, and you're like, wait a second,
Yeah,
this
what's
is
going on?
Because everyone has this misconception of soccer being this boring person sport, but then you go to Atlanta and they're bumping everyone's favorite
Right.
music. You got Migos, you got, like
Right.
you just said, you have all
Right.
this awesome music. You're gonna be like, wait a second, that's not boring. That's basically a party outside during the
Right.
day, and you're drinking, and you're gonna go see us.
One source that I was looking at, which had a perfect kind of metaphor example of hip hop and soccer are super closely knit, because when you're thinking of freestyle rapping and kind of just being fluid, a lot of that can be translated onto a pitch where a lot of even the moves that people do seem like freestyle moves or freestyle something where it's very expressive as a sport, whereas other sports don't necessarily have that.
Right.
Everybody has their individual flair, but they can still work together to make something beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to see that the music culture influencing the sport, because they go hand in hand.
It really
right?
does.
Especially for soccer teams that have chants and.
Well, they took from the Outkast song and made a chant
I
out
saw
of
that,
it,
yeah.
which is like it's the biggest chant they have, and it
Right.
came directly from an Outkast song, and it's
What
like
Outkast song?
It was the last.
It's like the last line of the song, and it's like
It's
"We
the
are
last-
Atlanta, Unite." Or
Yeah.
man,
I'd have to look
Yeah,
it up.
look it up.
Spot.
Put it on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
spot.
I don't remember the exact song, but I remember reading that as well, which is that's awesome.
It's awesome because you know what it is. The thing that really, really makes me happy for Atlanta is that they didn't show up and force a culture on Atlanta. They didn't go, okay, you like soccer. This is what American soccer culture is.
Right.
Do that. No, what they did, what the ownership and everybody there was like, nah, we're Atlanta. We do what we do.
It's not the we believe that we will win.
Right.
We
It's
believe
not
we
that.
will win.
Right. And so their chants are legit. They, they came up with their own chants. They have their own tifos. They have their own tailgate parties. They did it all themselves. And so that's what I think is amazing is that no one forced soccer culture.
Right.
They didn't. No one's forcing anything on people. It's not like the ownership is like these are the tifos we do. It's
Right.
like no.
Right.
They let the supporters
Right.
be real supporters,
Yeah.
Right.
which is what makes it so important.
Right.
And so just the fact that they took the hip hop, they took to hip hop and made it this big part of who they are, it's amazing.
Right.
And I think that if you compare it to college football, you might go to a tailgate, but you don't see yourself, not there's anything wrong with it because you might have half the supporters at Atlanta United blasting some country music at the tailgate, but next to them you have some people blasting some Migos and 21 Savage, and it's perfectly fine because both of those things are appropriately Atlanta.
Yeah.
You have the country, but you also have the hip hop. So it's whereas if you might go to a college, a college football tailgate, it may be more country, it may be more other kinds of music. The hip hop might not be so prominent, right?
Right.
But here, at Atlanta United tailgates, from what you read, it's equally diverse in the fact that you have half the people listening to, not half, but a section of people listening to country music, section of people listening to hip hop, but then the Latin people listening to Latin music, and it's that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the whole part of being united, right?
That's the united part of it, and it's also translate into the stadium where a lot of stadiums you go into, you hear the songs being played on the loudspeaker. So
Yeah.
it's that generic Flow Rida song coming on.
Yeah.
Atlanta United doesn't need that, right?
No,
they're
they
making
sing
their
the
own.
whole
They're
time.
making their own music. They're doing their own beats, own sounds. That is Atlanta. It's not some generic pop song, top 100 pop song, which is, you see that throughout some MLS clubs, but it's just another element that Atlanta United has really nailed.
For sure. If you were to, and the best part is that they were able to take, these rappers took to the sport as well. It wasn't just like we love their music. It's the fact that like Big Boy from Outkast is now a fan.
Right.
Waka Flocka is a fan.
Yeah.
Migos is a fan.
Rich Homie Quan, I think, went to a game and he did the
spike?
the spike
The
thing
golden
that they
spike.
do. Correct.
Well, I mean, I literally wrote down all the supporters.
rapper,
So
yeah.
here we got Rich Homie Quan, Big Boy, Andre 3000.
Yeah, that's huge.
Waka Flocka, Mike Will Made It, who's a Grammy nominated
he played
producer.
at their like inaugural fest
wow.
party that they had.
That's awesome.
And they were interviewing him, and it's like, why do you think that rappers are kind of jumping on this bandwagon? And he put it pretty well, and it's that Atlanta, again, harping on this United thing, but Atlanta, whenever someone does something successful in Atlanta, everyone's jumping on it. They all want to ride the wave of. And there's no malice behind it.
It's not like a front runner kind of thing. It's a matter of like, you're happy that it's Atlanta.
It is that Migos has a hit, so now 21 Savage is on it. All of these guys.
Right.
And so everyone in Atlanta wants to work together to
because
succeed.
they want Atlanta to succeed.
It's not
a matter of like, yo, I want mine, I'm going to get mine.
Right.
Yep.
It's more of like, yo, the soccer team is putting Atlanta on the map in terms of this area that we, like, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna go follow them.
Right. When hip hop became so popular in the 90s, it was between East and West Coast,
Right.
and then Outkast came out and we're like, nah, we're from the South, we're gonna beat all y'all
Yeah.
doing this.
Right.
And so that put Atlanta on the map. So Atlanta was already on the map for music and for movies and all this. All of a sudden everyone's looking around and going, man, Atlanta United, let's put them on the map in this area that's not explored yet.
Right.
So everyone came together and was like, nah, we're gonna put Atlanta United on.
Right. Finish your list.
Oh, and then the list keeps going. You got 2 Chainz, we said Migos, and CeeLo Green. I'm sure there's a million more, but like, it's just an amazing thing where it's such an inclusive thing where everybody embraces it. It's these rappers, everybody's embracing it.
Right.
You know, like, some of these guys might go to an Atlanta Hawks game, they might go to a Falcons game, but the fact that they all came together for a soccer team, which, all of us Americans who love the sport understand why that's such a baffling thing.
Right.
It's just like, why does anyone care?
Right.
But they do care, and that's the important part. They're at games. It's
Plus,
not just...
It's good because they have these rappers and these big celebrities actually interacting with the fans.
Yeah.
A lot of these basketball games they go to, they're sitting courtside. They're just there with whoever they're with. They might show up on the Jumbotron, give a wave. But here they have these, they're doing the spike.
Yep.
They have them leading chants. They have
Getting
them
them
doing
involved.
everything involved with it. It becomes all inclusive. It's you are Quavo, but you are also in Atlanta United, and we are you, right? So it's this whole.
It's not just like an endorsement kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a matter of like,
It's like, yo, you're famous. Like, you want to come over and like hype us
Right.
up a little bit? It's like,
Right.
nah, you're us, we're you.
Right.
Like, do you want to?
we're gonna be
part of
together,
it?
and you're gonna be a part of
Right.
it. You're not gonna just show up real quick, wave, sign hand,
Yeah.
wait, shake handshakes, and be
It's
out.
not some PR thing. Like, you're doing it
Right.
because you want to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't think that with most other soccer teams, like, you don't think that.
Right.
Even in the Premier League, like, you see,
No, yeah.
someone was at the game, like, here's just
They're
a quick
sitting
shot
up
of them.
they're sitting in the
up in the
box,
press box,
with
like, nah,
family and-
they're not doing any of the stuff that these guys
Right.
are doing, which is crazy. And then bringing it back to the fans, like, not to push soccer onto them, they got in touch with the transit system, correct?
Right.
The
Yes.
local
Yes.
transit system.
The MARTA is the
MARTA.
Florida. Right. So
And-
yeah, continue. Sorry.
And they started building these soccer fields at all these train stops.
Right.
Not to push it on people like, yo, this is your new place to go play sports. Like, they just were like, here are some fields.
Right.
Whatever happens, happens. And it kind of just brings that culture to, like, the average Joe that goes to work every day on the subway is going to see, like,
soccer every day.
dang, I see soccer every single day now. Like, maybe I should look into this. So it's like...
And on top of it, it just provides a place, an urban park for people, like kids who live in the city, who don't necessarily have a big field to play in the city,
Right.
but they're small 5-a-side little courts, and
Well,
they're amazing.
I think that this is a perfect segue to kind of connect the two, right? You have the investments from the board and everyone that is higher up. You have the culture, the people there. They're craving for something new. They're craving for something big.
Yep.
Why do these two work, right? And we've mentioned some things and the elements that attract one another. But what is so interesting is that the fans noticed that the ownership was giving back to society.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't they partnered up with the MARTA and partnered up with I can't remember the organization's name right now that actually does soccer in the streets to get kids off of the streets from doing bad things, drugs, violence, etc., gangs. That matters to people.
Of course.
Right? Especially when you're putting that downtown, getting kids out of any of these dangerous areas, getting them to go play soccer.
Yeah.
Right.
Pick up the ball.
They don't have these. They might have these rundown basketball courts, whatever it may be, but you want to go to this new soccer field.
Brand new.
It
looks beautiful. Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing because it's intuitive, but so many people don't do it. Right. Other cities, you don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Atlanta put that focus out. They knew that they were this big club, but they also had to give back if they were to get something in return.
Mm-hmm. And it shows that they wanted to kind of promote this grassroots kind of like,
right.
We are now Atlanta United, but we want to spread soccer to all the people who may not be able to play soccer.
Right.
Going back to the name Atlanta United, it's incorporating everybody. It's not just like, we don't care if, like, it's like, yeah, you're a soccer fan, you're going to like us, but it's more like, it's involving everybody in the city. They want to outreach to urban kids. They want to outreach to, you know, anybody who could benefit from being united within Atlanta. And I think that, like, going back to my whole thing about the name, like, it just fits so well now that I almost feel silly for thinking how weird I thought at the beginning.
Right. Well, another thing is that it's hard to sometimes find soccer fields in very urbanized cities,
right?
Or even
super difficult.
Boston has zero.
Boston it's so you can find maybe a
you can
college
go to a college,
stadium,
and
only if you go to a college,
and you can't even get in, right? If you don't go to I can't even Emerson College that has like a field right there. You can't. You got to jump the fence and then get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So making it something that these urban kids can come to.
Easily accessible.
You take the train, land there with your ball, play with your friends.
Exactly. Which is like, you know, easiest way to get around, metro.
Right.
And then, you know, maybe you don't live next to the field, but you hop on the on the train, and there you are.
Easier to get there than it is to get out 30 minutes out in the suburbs where there
are soccer fields
and you can get it. So
and it doesn't really create I mean, sometimes when you play, like the environment you play in, like I'm not gonna go and play at this huge park that has 30 fields.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel authentic.
It's what is it? It's probably an 8-a-side field. It's small. It gets everyone in there.
Yeah.
It builds up this feeling that actually gets people excited. And I've seen that some players have even gone there and scouted kids out of these fields to go play for their youth academies.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Awesome.
It's like you're playing.
That makes anyone young coming up even more so want to go there every day. I go there every day. I'm going to play. Someone's going to see me.
Yeah, right. It's like there's a chance I could be noticed at the field I go to every day. Like I'm
you know what I mean? You think about it like I'm going to go kick around with my buddies.
Yeah.
And you don't think anything of it. You're just like, I play street soccer.
I would go there
every
single day if I needed to.
If I knew someone got scouted, every single day I'd be there from dusk till dawn. I'd be there.
Years until the next.
Oh, right. And you wouldn't even need to pay to play on these crazy expensive teams.
Yeah.
It's another grassroots.
They're breaking down that mold of the whole, pay to play issue. It's just like, if some kids are coming out of urban Atlanta based on these fields, that's just phenomenal.
Right.
And it's awesome that Atlanta United helped fund it and that partnership and all that. So yeah, I think that it just shows that the community outreach is so good, which translates to attendance. And so it's something that we haven't talked about yet, but when they started out, they were playing at Bobby Dodd Stadium, which is the home of Georgia Tech, right? Older stadium, not too great. They quickly sold out the stadium. I think it was something like 30,000. I want to say 35,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me, but they were selling out that stadium, and it already had an awesome environment. And then they moved to Mercedes-Benz, and Mercedes-Benz, the capacity is 75,000, I believe. And originally they were like, oh, but we have this upper ring, we're going to close it for soccer games because we want it to feel more intimate. Because, they didn't think they were going to get more than 45,000 because it would limit it down to 40-ish thousand. Within a couple weeks, they filled out the entire stadium. They broke the MLS record for they broke the MLS home record for attendance, which was at the time 70,050 people. 2 weeks later, they broke their own record and hit 71,000 people in that stadium.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's important to note, too, that Atlanta has had soccer history. Right?
Yeah.
They've had 6 or so teams coming up through the different divisions. The last one being, I think, the Chiefs, that actually went to the final for Nassau before the Nassau kicked them out because they just didn't have funds for it.
Well, this was the older Nassau.
Right.
So it was like the one...
the older one before.
With like the Cosmos and all that.
Right. So they made it to the final, lost in the final to the Cosmo. Then after that, following seasons, Nassau couldn't afford them, so they kicked them out. what's important from having all these teams is that you build fan groups, supporter groups for these little teams.
And love for soccer. Maybe it wasn't love for
Right, it
soccer
wasn't
of this
huge,
new team.
and it wasn't huge, but you had them, and you had people wanting and craving this soccer
Something more.
attention
Yeah.
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So when you get this MLS team, you have a fan base that's kind of already behind an Atlanta team no matter what.
Yep.
Now they're like, okay, my team, my lower national team, USL, whatever it may be, doesn't exist. I now have an MLS team that I can back.
Yes.
True.
And it builds up that kind of pressure to create an exciting fan base for a team.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting as well.
It's really cool because like, the last bigger team, it was like the Atlanta Silverbacks. They were in the new Nassau.
Yeah.
But as we kind of hinted at a little bit here and there, the new Nassau was basically folding in on itself, and the Silverbacks they were attracting a lot of people. They were getting thousands of people at the game, and this was back in 2010, I believe.
Yeah.
So this was the precursor to these fans of who want soccer in Atlanta. So it wasn't like Atlanta United sprouted out of the ground, out of nowhere, and was like, here you go, here's some soccer.
And I think at 2011, Atlanta, those supporter groups started creating the Atlanta Wants MLS,
or
something.
Because I think they at the time they wanted the Silverbacks to like be promoted, quote unquote promoted. But then it didn't really matter because they were just getting these groups together. And then when MLS came to Atlanta with its own team, they just knew they wanted soccer, and they knew that they needed soccer. And so it's just important to note that it wasn't like this sprung out of nowhere in Atlanta. They had been building towards this. And so really what I'm trying to say with all this is that this was a multifaceted effort, and it just worked out on so many levels.
It worked out better than anyone probably ever could imagine that.
Exactly.
They probably, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure they wanted to, but I don't think they ever expected it to be able to fill out.
Well, there's the woman who's in charge of the it's like supporter engagement and marketing.
Yep.
She says that every day she goes to a game and she goes, we're not going to sell out, and every time they sell out, she like gets scared that no one's going to show up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
they were selling out during football games,
which is crazy.
Like that's crazy that people were like, F the NFL, I'm gonna go watch Atlanta United.
Well, there was a quote from one of the guys, and it was like,
the security guy, right?
The security guard. It was amazing. It was basically like, I ain't gonna lie to you. If these fans were the same fans for the Falcon games, we'd be undefeated. Said one of the security guards, because they say that when
I didn't see that.
It's phenomenal. And the thing is that you watch videos of them inside the stadium, and everybody's singing. It's that European like feel and love for the sport that everybody's singing, everybody's chanting, everybody is waving a flag, they're beating the drums. It's a loud stadium.
Yeah.
It's not like even football today is a quiet sport. You cheer when someone scores. You're sitting there with your you're too drunk to even realize it. But in a soccer
unless you're like a Raiders fan. Raiders fans are insane.
Well, they are their own class of
But
people.
even then, they don't have chants.
They don't have chants. They just cheer, and they say, they yell defense, and there's that one older suburban mom who has the D in the fence in her hand. And
the craziest things you see from football fans are before the games. They're all running
like Bill's Mafia.
Bill's
Mafia.
They're all just jumping through tables and shit. But
they don't even make it in the
You never see stuff in the stadium other than like a fight or two. But
So
in most sports, really, dude. Like
in America, there is no supporter culture in the stadium,
right?
Which is like,
because we're all too like almost all like it's all like behind the scenes, like behind the computer screen, like we're huge supporters.
It's everyone at home with their game, like throwing parties. For
all the professionals
and
at home.
I will say we're spoiled to shit. Like as Boston fans, like Boston Celtics fans are insane. I love them. They have supporter culture,
right?
But as a whole in the U.S. people don't. I mean, I can sit here as we're Boston sports fans. We know that we have supporter culture, but as a whole, people don't.
Right.
And it's great to see that Atlanta United, inside that stadium, no one shuts the fuck up. Everyone's singing, everyone's dancing, everyone's beating the drums. It became this massive, massive thing. And it's just like, it's crazy to think. And I think this is probably a good point to transition to, like, how does this compare to other MLS teams, and what does it matter, and where they're going?
Right.
Based on that quote of like, I ain't gonna lie to you, these fans, if these fans were the same fans for the Falcons, we'd be undefeated. It shows that they are not playing second fiddle to the Falcons.
No.
They are not playing second fiddle to any other sports team, especially because they're averaging higher attendance than anybody in the MLS. They broke the average attendance record. They average 42,000 people at a game. Every single game, and that's only because for more than half the season they weren't playing at Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
So now imagine this attendance record for next year.
Right.
If the stadium prior to this was capped, this new stadium they can fit 75,000 people. if they keep showing up the way they do, we're gonna have higher attendance records than most where Atlanta's gonna have higher attendance record than anybody in Europe potentially. Aside from
I'm an Atlanta United fan now. So.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Are we all dropping? We're all dropping the Revs.
It's not worth it, dude.
Until further notice, we're all United fans.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm a United fan, so I'm just gonna transition.
Hey, that's easy. I like that. We're just gonna call it United. We're now United supporters.
In terms of the rest of the MLS, it's a wake-up call and
For sure.
and kind of an embarrassment for the other teams.
yeah.
For maybe minus 2 other teams,
I'm
every other
thinking
team sucks.
Portland,
and Seattle.
And maybe Toronto.
I don't know if their supporters group is as big as
but
Seattle.
Their support is big in general.
It's big.
They
but
just have a small stadium.
Yes. Okay, I'll take that.
So I think
that's right.
With that being said, the small stadium, like I think this is gonna really take a shot at all the other owners and be like, "Yo, look what this guy just did."
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's hard because some place like Toronto, big enough city to have a bigger supporters group.
Oh yeah.
I think some of the smaller, the size of it doesn't matter. It's what you bring to that, right? Make it a scary environment. Make it somewhere that people don't want to come to.
You know, it's not the size of the boat; it's the motion of the ocean.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
Yep.
That's a
but
great.
What I think that was lacking in you know you. What I think was lacking in North American soccer culture is people thinking that soccer was cool.
Yeah.
Soccer was such a nerdy sport for hipsters and you know immigrants and people
Especially
of
like
culture.
the Timbers.
Especially the Timbers. Portland, Oregon is the weirdest place I've ever heard of in my life.
You're just like picture the guy with the curly mustache wearing a Timbers jersey
Oh my God.
and just like glasses,
Big ass beard.
drinking a coffee or something.
Shout out to Oregon for now pumping your own gas. I heard it's been pretty tough
Dude,
over
pictures
there.
online are hilarious. Like everybody messing up, like driving with oh my God.
Upside down.
Yeah,
Upside down. The lady like
on the windshield, dude.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
what?
My goodness.
But I think
Digress.
that with Atlanta, they are making soccer cool. It's not just the hipster.
Let's make
it's not
soccer cool again.
Yeah.
make soccer cool.
Hashtag
we
make
should
soccer
a
cool
hat.
again. Hashtag make soccer cool again.
Oh, okay, all right. Table
You
an
saw
idea.
it. You saw it here first.
This was the development of an idea, friends. But I'm not lying. I think that would be a good idea. Okay. Anyway, I digress. They're making soccer cool for everybody with the infusion of music and of actual supporter culture and getting real celebrities to want to come to the games not as a PR stunt but as a you know what I mean? If you see Big Boy and 2 Chainz and people going to the games and you're a fan of them, of course you're gonna go support. You're gonna be like, damn, if 2 Chainz doing it, I'm doing it.
What I think is super important as well that we haven't really spoken about is use your city or whatever you may consider, use your culture's strengths to your strength.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to make rap big in your stadium if you are in Minneapolis and that's not your genre.
Yeah.
Right? Use what you have around you, draw from the people around you to get them to come to your games.
Which is what we mentioned a little bit about last week or 2 weeks ago with Nashville. It's like I hope Nashville comes in and goes, "Yo, we're a big country city.
Only Jason Aldean playing at all the
Blast
games.
Jason Aldean. Have Jason Aldean sing the national anthem every single week and just blast country because that's your city. That's what you do. Bring your and the thing is we talk about Portland being weird. Fuck yeah, Portland, go be weird because that's your culture.
Yeah, that's you guys.
Be your culture.
Only serve nitro coffee.
Only nitro coffee and craft beer. Sell the beard wax right outside the stadium and nitro coffee.
I only sell beer wax. Perfect. Yeah.
And so
with your supporter membership, you get nitro coffee and beard wax. And a flannel of your choice.
Yeah.
Dude, if Portland Timbers do not sell their own flannels, we need to call someone and tell them that they
Portland
need to fix
did have a collab with the boot company that I thought was awesome.
That's
like
super
a local
cool.
company.
That's so cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, they were like
because their whole thing is keep Portland weird, right?
Yeah.
And I love that they're a bunch of weirdos who love
weird.
soccer.
Yeah.
And they pack their stadium.
Right.
And they do the thing. They're
using the strengths of...
They're using their strengths. And you gotta
to
play to what your city's known for. Atlanta, big hip hop, big country. Do that. Nashville, if they come in, they better hit on that country. Because what's the best form of marketing? You go down Main Street in Nashville, you have all those people listening to country music at night. Make them know that there's country music being played and supported down the street at the soccer stadium. Take them there and come back to those same bars. You're gonna get the supporters so easy. Because what the lady was saying when we were trying to build up culture for Atlanta United, there was one guy who worked for them who basically said that for 2 years his whole life was one big bar crawl. He'd go to bars every single day to get people pumped for Atlanta United.
Yeah.
Huh.
On top of that being one of the best jobs on the planet, he did a job. You know what I mean?
It seems like it worked out.
It seemed like it worked out.
Yeah.
And so it's like bring that culture. Where are people paying attention? What are they doing? Go there and bring it in.
Yeah.
But the idea is make sure that your city isn't pretending. And like I said earlier, Atlanta didn't come in and say, this is what soccer culture is. It's like, no.
This is
Let
Atlanta.
It be. This is Atlanta. Let it be
Don't
Atlanta.
try to make your team mainstream.
Soccer isn't supposed to be this like far away thing. It's just a thing. And Atlanta is Atlanta, and they adapted soccer the way they wanted to.
Right.
Let it do that.
Yeah.
No, I think I think everything we said was great.
I agree. I think everything we said was great and on point, and you should listen to us.
And so, well, taking it further, I think that where Atlanta compares to like European cities and European teams is that they were averaging more people at their game
Their average
than Chelsea. Chelsea
if you're
Football
considering
Club.
their like the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they're averaging United numbers, which is the highest in England.
Yeah, if you were to take the numbers of just from
at
when they
Mercedes-Benz,
started
yeah.
at Mercedes-Benz, they're averaging close to what United average.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the same size.
Right.
United, Old Trafford fits 75,000.
Right.
Mercedes-Benz fits about 75,000. If they
Right.
continue to sell out, that's
huge.
bananas because
Right.
you have teams struggling to sell out stadiums in Europe
Right.
on some weird stuff.
Even in the Prem, right?
in the Prem, you have teams that don't sell out like stuff. You know,
Wow, Anfield's only 54,074.
Yeah, but
That's-
you guys are getting
but-
an extension.
I thought it wasn't finished yet.
I don't know if it's finished.
and then you also have the Empty Had in Manchester who don't sell out their stadium.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're big
Yeah.
stadiums, like 70,000, and no one goes.
they should reduce the
They
size.
should
of
reduce
that
the
stadium.
size. They should, yeah. But
It's going to be up to 60,000.
Yeah.
but it's just crazy to me that they're averaging more attendance than Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea Football Club, big time club today. I don't want to be gassing anyone up here. I have a couple friends who, whatever. But you know, big time club. They're in the They were in the Champions League. They've won the Champions League. All this big stuff. But Atlanta's some small little thing that is averaging more attendance than them. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Sure, the capacity at Stamford Bridge isn't as big, but they've been around for so long. Why isn't their stadium bigger? And of
Right.
course, they're getting it bigger now. But it's like the numbers compare.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they continue to average, like I said, if they average United numbers, Manchester United numbers next year, it'll be insane because
Yeah.
the average for the league is like I think 28,000, 25,000 per game, and Atlanta's already averaging 42.
Yeah.
If next year they average 70,
Oh
it's
my
gonna be the
gosh.
weirdest thing. You're gonna read a list of like the most watched like teams. It'll be like Atlanta United at 70,000.
Yeah,
a game.
And I'm sure that if they started doing outside supporter ticket allocation the way they do it in the Prem, Atlanta United would blow everybody out of the water. Like they'd have to start overselling tickets for. Imagine Atlanta came with the Gillette. They'd have more fans in there than the Revs.
Did we see? No, I went to an Atlanta United game.
Did you?
I went to
If
Atlanta
it
United
became more of a
Revs.
culture, the Atlanta
Where
United,
the traveling culture of it,
yeah, the traveling culture of it's such a
supporters
big
groups
thing.
and stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Imagine hopping on a bus in Atlanta and coming up for a game.
Yeah,
That'd be insane. You'd outnumber the Revs fans like 7-1,
easily.
and all you'd have to do is bring 20 people,
Yeah,
and you already beat them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But another interesting point.
Step up, Revolution.
Interesting point is that the MLS regulars like the 2018 regular season schedule came out this past week, and Atlanta United is getting the most nationally televised games out of all of the teams in the MLS. Atlanta United,
Smart.
the newcomers,
Ride the
ride the train. They have 16 nationally televised games between ESPN and Fox Sports,
Wow.
and that's a lot for
Right.
soccer. I mean, I know it doesn't sound 16, small number, but
Right.
when you put it into context, they are leading every other MLS team to have 16.
they're a
national
year old.
titles. And they're a year old, and you have the Galaxy who've won 5 cups, and they are close to them in national
Right.
televised games. But like, why is Atlanta United beating you guys? That's just. It looks amazing for Atlanta, but it looks poor for everyone else.
Again,
Yeah.
that's the thing. That should already scare owners, right? Why am I losing out on TV rights?
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it just from purely numbers wise, start looking at the roots. Get
Yeah.
your fans to come. Make your team exciting. Make your team intertwined with the culture around you. Don't just try to make it some money grab.
Yeah.
Then you'll see the money come if your team is playing well and you have the fans there. Why do you think they want to show them? Sure, they're playing well, but they get to show a stadium packed with
It's
Yeah.
because it's
that
not.
atmosphere of 75,000 people.
You're
That's
gonna
completely-
hear it on
right, that's
TV.
completely different.
You know what it
than-
is? I think that a lot of teams in the MLS focus on one aspect. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a great product on the field,
Yeah.
but then they don't care about anything else.
Right.
They think it's gonna follow, but they have
Right.
to realize that you have to cultivate that
Right.
and do it the right way.
Right.
To further that, Atlanta's also hosting the 2018 All-Star Game. MLS is taking notice and looking at it going, damn, they are doing so well and there's so much good reception. Let's put our biggest event versus a European team in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's become the MLS's proudest like child
within
It's
1
that-
year,
right?
and it's insane.
It's that new baby.
It makes me so excited to see what things will happen next season.
You know what it is? What I'm excited to see is how the new LAFC comes up.
Yeah.
Because LA is the #1 soccer market in America.
for sure.
And so it's like, if the Galaxy are an old school type MLS team, so it's like they're never probably going to change the way they do things. But if LAFC shows up with their brand new fancy stadium, the Bank of California Stadium, and they do the things that Atlanta did, bring in that LA music vibe, bring in the LA culture, bring in the celebrities. Dude, imagine getting celebrities from LA. Everyone's a celebrity in LA. Just bring people to the game. It'll be the easiest thing as long as they do it
there are
well.
already celebrities in LA who support football in general, so like why not like try to tap them?
Right.
And so it'll be really interesting to see what LAFC does, because they are
their colors for LAFC.
Their colors already, and the thing is, everything they've done so far, I think they're following a similar path to Atlanta. The supporters group kind of situation, the season ticket holders, they are making soccer cool. We're gonna get those hats out. I swear to God, we have to get those hats because I think that's dope.
Scoots.
And so they're following that template. And so we talked about how we want every club to do it. LAFC is doing it. We think, right? We're gonna have to see how it comes along. We might have to do an episode in a year about LAFC after they have their first full year. But taking it on the flip side as well, Atlanta wasn't just out having more attendance than other MLS teams. There were games that Atlanta United had more attendance than the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
There's a thing where it said a total of 67,000 people attended the game that when they broke one of the records, and it was 3,000 more, or I'm sorry, just 3,000 fewer than watched the Falcons lose to the Miami Dolphins. So it's like Miami Dolphins had the Falcons Miami Dolphins game had 70,000. And there was another game where Atlanta had 71,000. So it's like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
They're starting to beat NFL numbers, and NFL numbers are insane. Right. So, you know, what the impact of that is going to be on not just MLS, but as the sport landscape in the U.S. shifts. Is it going to shift because of these kind of things? What if in Atlanta the Falcons continue to blow leads and continue to do bad things? You might have to start supporting Atlanta United full time.
Or even just football in general. What if we just learn that these brain diseases that all these dudes are getting, like
I think that
like a lot of kids are gonna stop wanting to play football. Their parents won't
American
play
football.
American football.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think a lot of people are not wanting to watch the game because they know like these dudes are putting their bodies on the line and like they may make some gross, stupid decisions later in their life.
Right, and there's no real repercussions from the NFL and whatever. But yeah, I agree that the shift I think is there, and this is a good wave for the MLS to be riding on, and I think it's good that they are promoting Atlanta so much because maybe this will cause that shift from, hey, maybe I won't play my kid in football, maybe I'll play him in Atlanta in Atlanta. Maybe I'll play him in soccer because Atlanta looks so cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you know what it is? I saw the stat the other day. The NFL is down 10% in viewership. 10%. 10% is insane.
It's
in 1 year.
In the NFL, too.
In the NFL,
like, that's
they went from, I think it was like 15.6 million people watching, average watching a game, to down to 14 million. And sure, 14 million is still a lot of people, but a 10%
well, especially
decrease,
if you're talking about millions, that's a big...
It's a lot. 15 million people per game not watching the NFL is a lot.
Yeah.
So let's say next year, instead of just 16 nationally televised games, Atlanta goes, we're going to give them 18, or 22, or 25. And all of a sudden,
they're playing the Atlanta United games over instead of the Falcons being away.
Yeah. And so I think that, you know, they are... It's I don't want to say the word revolutionary, but it's feeling like if they properly continue to cultivate this wave,
they will start a fire.
They will start a fire. The embers are there for American soccer.
Just gotta blow on them.
You gotta blow on them.
I honestly hope that they win an MLS Cup soon.
If they win an MLS Cup, it'll be insane.
Because it'll keep that train rolling.
Oh, yeah.
One thing we didn't mention is that Atlanta is the first expansion team that made the playoffs in their first year.
Yeah. Sounders did that, no?
In their first year? I don't know.
No?
We'd have to double check. But what I read was that they, in their first year, was the first club to ever make the playoffs in their first year of existence.
Regardless, right.
Regardless, if there was another club who did it, they were very few. It's one or two, and they are one of them.
That's, again, it's not, they're not playing to not lose, they're playing to win.
Yeah. And so, man, it'll be really cool to see what happens. It's very exciting.
I'm excited. I'm not even like...
We don't live in Atlanta, but we're not Atlanta United.
Yeah, we're not Atlanta United supporters.
We're part of this.
Our buddy Greg Garza has a great season.
Yeah, I hope so too, man.
Greg, we miss you, bud.
But yeah. I think
We could probably ramble on for the next hour, but I think that's a good place to
Yeah.
put a bookmark in it and
Yeah.
just table this conversation for another day. But
yeah, hopefully we get down to Atlanta, get to watch a game.
oh, for sure. I think
Excited to do
that's our
that.
plan is this year to go down to a game.
Yeah, experience that firsthand. Maybe get a recap podcast of what we
That'll be
experienced
good.
firsthand, and
Yeah, maybe even like a shorter, like half-hour one where we just,
yeah,
that'd be
see
good.
what that's like.
Sorry, before we sign off, one thing I forgot to mention. Going towards the future of Atlanta United, they recently signed Darlington Nagbe from the Portland Timbers. He won an MLS Cup with the Timbers, and he was instrumental
Really?
in their Cup win. And Atlanta United ends the season, and the first thing they announce is this monstrous move for Darlington Nagbe. And so this could be huge for them. Because imagine this, you have this your first full season, your MVP kind of player in Joseph Martinez, he only plays half the games and still is killing it.
Yeah.
You get him fully fit the full season, and you get Darlington Nagbe in that team, you could be challenging not for playoffs, but for number 1 seed.
Right.
You could be challenging Toronto for that number 1 seed,
Right.
And so it'll be really cool to see how that changes the dynamic of the game for them, and what he brings.
It just shows that they're a team that
Thinking,
they're
dude.
gonna.
They're conscious. It wasn't just like, oh, we had a great first season. This is awesome. It was
it's like,
we
yo,
had a great first season.
what can
How
we
the
do?
hell do we win?
Right. Let's start making moves.
It's that killer mentality.
Yeah.
And so that'll be cool to see how that works. Sorry, that was my last bit, and I think we're good.
That's it. No, that's a good little bit.
Yeah.
Good little morsel.
Good little
Yeah,
morsel.
good little taste at the end. It's like, yo, and they have plans for next year with their players.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
From the Liverpool Den,
From the Liverpool Den.
we hope you had a blast. We did. We're comfy. We're cozy. We love it.
Cool. I think that's a good place to sign off. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Most
Sayonara,
important.
folks.
Deuces.